Hi, and welcome back here on the Senior Network. We're now joined by Nancy Rosen, our HR manager with Right at Home. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
It's always fun to have you on the show. I know you got a lot of good things to tell us about. On the last show, we talked about, November is the National Family Caregiver Month.
Indeed.
And we work obviously with caregivers, but we also work alongside family caregivers. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, certainly. We get to know the families quite a bit. We have some nurses and a social worker who go out to meet the families as well as the potential client. So they get to know the families very well and what's important to not only the potential client, but the families. So you have to remember that we have two customers. We have the actual person we're taking care of and what they're expressing their needs are. So their needs may be very different than their daughter's needs. Or their son's needs, or whomever else.
Typically it is.
Yes, there is. There's two sets of expectations.
Yes.
So sometimes we have to remember that. And then sometimes we have to pull the adult children into the conversations with mom or dad and say, hey, mom or dad likes the dog to be walked this way, but I know you're saying you prefer the dog to be walked that way, so maybe we can, get you on FaceTime so we can have some sort of a conversation about how we can make everybody happy,
And family caregiving, I know I think you mentioned earlier about the sandwich generation. There is a lot of folks out there, and that's a very stressful job. I mean, when you're trying to maintain a family and children and then also take care of your parents, there's a lot involved with that. And I think that's where companies like ours at Right at Home, where you can get what we call respite care, some relief to come in and help with that and give a break.
I mean, indeed. I think one of the biggest things that we get and the most calls we get are, people who have a loved one who are showing signs of dementia. Yeah. And pretty much the issue with that, and we're coming up on Dementia Month too in November, but is that they've got a family who goes to work all day and the loved one is showing signs of dementia, maybe leaving the stove on, and then at night also wandering, but yet that adult child has to go home to, their family who has maybe middle schoolers, and what do you do about that? They can't be awake all day, ensuring that mom or dad is not getting hurt, and they can't be awake all night, making sure mom or dad is not leaving the house and eloping. So then we get the phone call that says, look, I've got to get some sleep at night, so can someone come over and sit with mom or dad to make sure that they're safe?
And for me as an attorney, when I get those questions, when the client comes in, mom calls, upset, we do get phone calls where I know my daughter needs to take care of me, or my daughter is trying to take care of me and I don't want help. What's a good referral? What's good information that I can get so that when I recommend or if I call, what's good information so that I can help that child caregiver who's got the middle schoolers and saying, we think mom's got dementia. I know you mentioned you guys have a database and can help find stuff. So what's a good information or referral so that we can assist and kind of bridge the gap and be another resource? Hey, this is what's going on with mom. I know you did her documents. I need help.
Right. Yeah, we were talking during the break about what we have is called ClearCare. ClearCare is a very sophisticated access database in which we manage all of our clients and all of our caregivers. And of course, caregivers is kind of my home base and my wheelhouse, so that's where I live all day long. And when I hire my caregivers, I get to capture all of their skill set, the skill set they have coming on to us. And then as they grow with us and we give them skills through in-services and trainings, we get to check off, okay, they've accomplished trainings on dementia. They've accomplished how to do thickened liquids for someone who is aspirating. And so as they grow and they kind of accumulate all these skills, we can run reports based on what your client's needs are. So if you call us up and say, hey, I've got somebody who just had a video swallow done and they're having a real bad issue and they're gonna need honey thickened liquids, and they have a Hoyer lift, and they have a cat. So we actually have drilled down to which of our caregivers are not allergic to cats. So we can run a report that says, okay, we know someone who is a CNA who knows how to use a Hoyer lift and has accomplished that certificate, who's not allergic to cats and knows how to do honey thickened liquids. And we can produce that list of maybe 25 caregivers who are available, and then we find out what time of day and what days of the week that your client needs that caregiver, and then we drill that down for you. So then we can do some introductions, and then they get to pick who they like.
Yeah.
And that's big with them getting to pick, so.
Indeed. We need to have them feel like they have some control
Right.
over this process, because they feel like this is being imposed on them,
Right.
and there's going to be a stranger in their house, and I don't like this at all. And of course, who would want this as their first choice, is to have a stranger with them. But if you get to say, hey, I'm going to send Molly over at 1, and you let us know what you think, and then we're going to send Peggy over at 2, and Shonda over at 3, and you let us know. You pick and you tell us what you think. And then they get to have all that feedback, and they can tell us who's their first, second, and third choices.
Nancy has a great point, and Rebecca, your question was great, because the fact of what we talked about, introducing and finding the right match, because it has to be important for the caregiver too. And we know after 14 years that we have matches that we've put together that have been there for 10 years plus. And that means a lot to us. That means that we really did a good job up front, and we see a lot of that.
Yeah, the more information we have up front, the better the match can be. So, but sometimes we don't have a lot of information, and we can grow that. So we like to send over our social workers and our nurses to try to do an interview and say, tell me a little bit about yourself. Maybe they have a similar background, or they're from originally the same state or something. And maybe that could be the match too. And if it isn't the greatest match, or a love match in the beginning, then we can send someone else. And I think they like that too. If they just say, it wasn't the best fit, not a problem. How about we send over that other gal? Let's see how that goes. Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. That's all the time we have, unfortunately. Great to have you, Nancy, and good to see you again. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me.
Please, everyone, take the time, the email, give us some feedback, your comments, topics, anything like that you'd like for us to know. And again, thank you for joining us here on the Senior Network, where senior experts come together. We'll see you the next time.